In the last video, we learned how to spin a that server, and that we get a request object with information about the incoming request and response object that we can use to send a response. So let's now connect both the request and the response. Instead of printing some request data to the console, which of course doesn't do much for us, let's instead start writing a very simple web server that does different things depending on which router we enter. So depending on which slash whatever part we enter here. So let's say for slash nothing, we want to load a page where the user can enter some data which we then store and find on the server once it is sent. We can do this by first of all passing the URL. I'm storing it and a new constant. And I do this by accessing the request URL. And remember that was something like a slash test whatever we entered. I then entered a if statement and check if the URL is equal to just slash. And only this will match. By the way, the top equal sign means that this will only be true if URL is both the strings and has that value. And so now here, if that is the case, I want to return a response which holds some HTML that gives the user an input font and a button that will send a new request and a return. And that will not be a get request, by the way. And here I write an HTML document with a head and a different title, enter message, and the body holds a form that is a default HTML element, of course, with an input of type test, let's say, and a button. And this will be super ugly because we have no styling, but it's about the functionality for now. The button will be of type submit, so that it submits a font, and that will be some default HTML behavior we use here, where a button with the type submit and a font element will send a new request, and we will figure that request in a second. I give the button caption sent, and that font element here I add the action, which is basically the URL that request which will be generated automatically should be sent to, and I use slash message here, and this will automatically target the host it's running on. So localhost in our case here, localhost 3000 to be precise, and then we define the method, the HTTP method that should be used, and there we previously saw that we get a get request, which is the default if we enter a URL. Here we are not entering URL, instead we want to send a so-called post request. There's a limited set of HTTP words you can use. Get and post are the two most important ones. A get request is automatically sent when you click a link or enter URL. Post request has to be set up by you by creating such a form. There are also some other ways by using JavaScript, but we will ignore them for now. So in HTML, we create such a form and we define that the method should be post, and this will send a post request to a slash message. And the cool thing about the form is it will not just send such a request, it will also look into the form, detect any inputs or related elements like a slash we might have. If we give that input a name, which should be message, it will also automatically put that message into the request it sends to our server. So now here, when we visit just localhost 3000 slash nothing, we will return a response where we render this HTML code. Now I also put a return statement in front of the rest end. This is not required to return a response, but to return from this anonymous function and to not continue this code because we returned prior to it, and this will quit the function execution. And we must do this because I told you that after rest end, we must not call any other rest write or rest set headers. But this was happen if we now return, because then it will just continue execution with these lines. I don't want that. If we make it into the if statement, we should also quit here. We should exit out of this function. With this, let's start the server by quitting it with Ctrl C and restarting it with Node.js. And so let's reload this page on localhost 3000 slash nothing. And we see my input and the same button here. Again, not super pretty, but it's working. Now let's make sure that if we enter something and we hit send, we see this, that we now not only see this, but something else happens. By the way, we do see this, but now the URL is a slash message, and slash message does not make it into this if statement, and therefore this code runs. But we want to do something else.